Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Thanks for joining us. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Authorities in Omaha investigating a shooting death. Police say they responded to a nature unknown call at Howard and 12th Street just after midnight. Police say they found 24-year-old Jay Sean Coleman in a Jeep suffering from a gunshot wound. Coleman was hospitalized, later died from his injuries. Police say they're investigating his death as a homicide. Anyone who has any information is asked to contact police. Investigators say one person has been found dead after a weekend house explosion in central Nebraska. They also say it seems to have been an intentional act. State Fire Marshal investigators revealed more details yesterday on the investigation into the Wood River explosion on Saturday. Investigators say they discovered evidence of tampering with a natural gas system in the household. The person found has not yet been identified. The explosion on Saturday destroyed one home, set fire to an adjacent home. Another person was hospitalized for what were called minor injuries. They've since been released. Several surrounding homes, businesses, and structures suffered major damage. Nearly 24 other homes were damaged in some way. One person has died following a fatal crash in southeast Nebraska. The Gage County Sheriff's Office says 21-year-old Jose Luis Hernandez of Plymouth was killed in the crash. It happened on State Highway 4, about 6 miles northwest of Beatrice. Investigators say Hernandez lost control of his pickup trying to navigate a curve. Authorities say the pickup rolled several times, ejecting Hernandez. He was pronounced dead at the scene. A northeast Nebraska woman in jail after authorities say she led them on a pursuit while high. It happened Sunday afternoon. The Madison County Sheriff's Office says 63-year-old Roxanne Cody of Pilger was arrested near the Norfolk Airport. Authorities say they were alerted that a pickup driven by Cody was northbound on Highway 81 near Madison, driving recklessly. Sheriff's officials say Cody refused to pull over for Madison County authorities, even continuing to drive after her tires were flattened by spike strips. After a 10-mile chase, Cody was taken into custody after her vehicle was disabled near the airport. Authorities say Cody was inhaling aerosols while driving. She's been arrested on multiple violations. 3 jockeys and an outrider hospitalized after a horse collision at Fonner Park. It happened Sunday. Park officials say a horse stumbled going into a far turn at the end of the race. That caused 3 riders to go down. The park says there was also a separate collision after the race involving a loose horse. In addition to the 4 injured, 3 horses were killed. The Nebraska Racing and Gaming Commission will conduct any investigation into the incident. Well, an Israeli war cabinet minister visiting the White House today expected to talk about a potential ceasefire. The U.S. helping negotiate the deal and urging both parties to accept it. Amy Kiley has more.
Let's get a ceasefire.
The White House is increasing pressure on Israel and Hamas to stop fighting, at least temporarily.
Let's reunite the hostages with their families, and let's provide immediate relief to the people of Gaza.
After that speech yesterday, the vice president is hosting Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz today. They're expected to discuss a possible 6-week ceasefire and hostage deal. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to meet with Gantz tomorrow.
It is time for the president to use all the leverage that he has to get a long-term ceasefire.
The U.S., Egypt, and Qatar are helping work out the deal. The U.S. wants an agreement by the start of Ramadan Sunday. Hamas has negotiators in Cairo for talks, but Israel didn't send a delegation yesterday. It says it wants some hostage details first. But Harris says Israel agrees to the deal's general framework. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza continues.
I have to wait also in a line for hours to use the toilets and to take some food if it's available.
UNICEF says at least 10 children have died in recent days from malnutrition and dehydration. It predicts that number will climb rapidly without more humanitarian access.
We have over 25,000 innocent people who have been killed in the process of rooting out Hamas, and it appears it's going from bad to worse.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
House and Senate leaders, meanwhile, yesterday released a negotiated text of 6 appropriations bills that Congress has to pass by Friday to avoid a government shutdown. If the bill passes, Congress will have to vote on a second appropriations bill to fund the rest of the government. The deadline for that approval, March 22nd, to again avoid a shutdown. House Speaker Mike Johnson claimed victory in the first negotiated settlement, releasing a statement that said, in part, House Republicans secured what were key conservative policy victories. He said they rejected left-wing proposals and imposed sharp cuts to agencies and programs critical to President Biden's agenda. Among those reductions, 10% to the Environmental Protection Agency, a 7% cut to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and a 6% cut to the FBI. Well, the weekend censure of a key Democrat by the state Democratic Party finds the Omaha mayoral race now front and center and somewhat confused. The party slapped down State Senator Mike McDonald for not being progressive enough, but McDonald tells News Channel Nebraska that's not affecting his decision to run for mayor. Joe Jordan has more.
In my time as a member of the committee,
it's been a stormy few years for State Senator Mike McDonald as the Omaha labor leader and former fire chief considers a run for Omaha mayor in 2025.
Heartbeat is a universal sign of life, and we also know that abortions stop a beating heart.
Last year, McDonald was the only Democrat backing a move to restrict abortions after 6 weeks. McDonald defending his vote, noting he's pro-life, a lifelong member of the Roman Catholic Church. He's also backed bills targeting transgender youth, one prohibiting gender-changing surgeries, the other effectively banning boys from girls' bathrooms and sports teams, and vice versa. He's thinking about running for mayor in 2025. A lot of people think he might be the Democratic nominee in 2025. Will the party back him? That was my question last year to Jane Kleb, the head of the Nebraska Democratic Party, after McDonald's abortion and transgender votes. Here was her answer.
We are actively recruiting for candidates for mayor in 2025.
Other than Mike McDonald?
If Mike McDonald wants to run, we think that that's great, but the party is actively talking with other Democrats who will also be throwing their hat in the ring.
That same day, I also spoke with Mike Marchek, a leading Democrat in the LGBTQ wing of the party, about McDonald. You consider him a Democrat?
I personally do not.
Now, this latest censure is likely to renew talk that McDonald will turn Republican, something Kleb appears more than willing to stop. According to Kleb, the difference between us and Republicans is that we can hold space for all Democrats, adding she will not put into question Senator McDonald's party affiliation as a Democrat. And McDonald tells me the Democrat censure does not affect his decision to run for mayor. By the way, amid all this talk about McDonald's less than Democratic chops, there's also this.
Senator designate Pete Ricketts.
When Governor Pillen appointed former Governor Pete Ricketts to the Senate last year, McDonald was in the room, the only Democrat in sight. In Omaha, Joe Jordan, News Channel, Nebraska.
Meanwhile, as we enter March, presidential campaigns kicking into high gear, some primaries coming up this week. Karen Kafa has more on what will be seen from candidates across the country.
Dueling visits to the Super Tuesday state of Texas and the U.S. southern border with Mexico Thursday were another sign that President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have set the table for a 2020 rematch this November.
I understand my predecessor is in Eagle Pass today.
What he's done to our country is he's destroying our country.
But Trump still has a Republican challenger in the race, and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley told reporters Friday she raised another $12 million in February. Crucial cash as she tries to pull off at least one win on Tuesday when more than a dozen states head to the polls.
How many more times do we have to lose before we start to say maybe Donald Trump is the problem?
Haley's path to the GOP nomination narrows with each loss to Trump as the former president outpaces her delegate total. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has an opportunity to tout his administration's accomplishments before a major national audience Thursday when he's poised to deliver his State of the Union address on Capitol Hill.
The president sees this as an incredibly important opportunity, not just to address Congress, but also to address the American people, millions of people.
The White House says that the election year speech will continue to be drafted over the next week. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
The Nebraska City School District trimming community service as part of its graduation requirements. Dan Swanson has more.
From cleaning up after community festivals to joining in with a flash mob dance, Nebraska City students have been logging over 108,000 community service hours since they were added to graduation requirements nearly 30 years ago. But this year is the last. School Superintendent Mark Fritsch said a graduation requirement for community service is not needed in a school district where giving back is an underpinning of the culture.
Our students support their fellow students, as well as anywhere I've seen. When we talk about giving rides to their classmates to make sure that they can participate in activities.
Tutoring.
We do things, after school clubs, Friday Friends. All those things don't count as community service, but it's about doing the right thing and helping others, and that's just what happens around here.
Curriculum coordinator Kate Sherwin organized meetings with middle and high school students and said she was surprised at how highly they valued their own experiences with community service.
I think it was about the feelings. It made them feel good, and they got to see others feel good.
She said the school wants to build on the momentum for the culture of one pioneer family.
How do we get kids to feel, number one, like they are part of their community, so that number two, they see the importance of giving back?
Fritsch said new requirements trim the minimum credit hours to 230 after the state legislature's mandates helped credit hour requirements swell to 245 hours. He said although community service is no longer required, students say it remains beneficial to them.
To a T, 100% said, we value, understand, and believe in community service. Overwhelming from our students.
When the discussion turned to what counts as community service, uncertainty set in. Middle schoolers who play music for the city's Christmas tree lighting or serve breakfast on Veterans Day did not receive credit. High schoolers babysitting during the pandemic or taking a role in school activities also did not count.
So when they go and read at Northside, when they go and peer model at a recess at our elementary, that doesn't count towards their graduation. And so what happens is we start worrying about, well, does it count or does it not count? Instead of actually valuing what it's really about, and that's giving back to our community.
Fritsch said community service should not be about a graduation credit, but about helping others. From Nebraska City, I'm Dan Swanson, News Channel, Nebraska.
And the first over-the-counter birth control pill approved in the U.S., O-Pill, available in stores and online this month. It can be bought directly from its own website, opill.com, in the coming days, but it could take a few weeks for the medication to reach pharmacy shelves. Manufacturer Perrigo has a suggested retail price of $20 for a 1-month supply, $50 for a 3-month supply. The company says when taken as directed, O-Pill 98% effective at preventing pregnancy. That's in line with the effectiveness of most other birth control pills. Stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com. Click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day. This is News Channel Nebraska.